Cool. So while I'm doing this, while I'm just getting this ready here, make sure that you have a pen and paper because there will be some writing. So while I'm just fixing this, pen and paper, super. Good. Let's do this then. Good. We are ready to go. So we're going to talk about limiting beliefs and what is it really? What is limiting beliefs? So we're going to go all into that. And I want to start by just thanking you for being here because I know that time is really, really precious for all of us. It's one of the most precious commodities that we do have. There's still some people saying that, you know, money is more important or gold or silver or whatever, but I really don't agree with that. It really is all about our time and what we do with it. So thank you so much for being here. And as we said here before, I'd really like you to take notes. If you want to do a screenshot on certain things, please do. We'll save the questions for afterwards so that you feel free to ask whatever you want to ask me. So thank you. So why a webinar on limiting beliefs? Well, if we want to have peace outside of ourselves, we need to have peace within ourselves. So, and to be able to feel that peace, we need to be what we call congruent with ourselves. We need to be on the same page with ourselves. So the limiting beliefs that we are holding on to, many of the times we don't really know that we have them. And what they do is that they keep us small and they prohibit us from evolving and to become who we really are. And also, they're very hard to spot. That's why we hold on to them. And they really keep us stuck in our daily life. And as I said here, it's not just going to be me talking here. I'm going to put out a lot of questions for you so that you will have to think as well about your limiting beliefs. So who is this for then? Well, I would have to say that if you have ever experienced sabotaging yourself, if you have a self-sabotaging pattern, I'm gonna let you meet some of the self-saboteurs that we have inside ourselves a little bit later. But if you experience self-sabotage patterns in your life, if you have fears and facing challenges, if you find that hard, if you feel like you just on repeat all the time, you're stuck in this loop, you know, life keeps repeating itself, and maybe feeling insignificant, you know, this question here, who am I to do things? And if this makes you avoid taking new steps, well, then this webinar is definitely for you. It's not for you if you are, I do love this here. When you talk, you're only repeating what you already know. But if you listen, you may learn something new. I like that one. So I always do this. Who is it for and who is it not for? Well, it's not for you if you have no willingness to change whatsoever. And not open, you know, you don't want to be challenged. You don't want to look deeper into values and maybe start questioning old beliefs, and just don't want to explore new possibilities. Okay, so if this is you and you're not willing to do this, well, then I guess you can do something really nice with your time instead of spending it here with me. We're going to explore how to identify limiting beliefs. This is what we'll do today. Okay, we will explore how to identify them. We will also look at internal resistance and also actually the external resistance that there is. We will also find out, or you will find out, what drives you, but also what stops you. And becoming aware of the self-sabotaging patterns that we do have. And also something I call 6 levels to emotional freedom. I will give you the blueprint for that. Doesn't that sound good? It sounds good, right? But there's work behind it. So I'd like you to stay to the end because I love your input. It's very important. It's really things like this, webinars like this should really be done in real life where you can sit and you can talk and so on. But as I said, okay, this is a webinar, it's not a workshop. So my intention with this webinar today is just to get you thinking, just to start a process within yourself and continue that one. So I don't know about you, but have you ever started something and never followed through? You know, I can't be the only one. You know, really good intentions, but then something happens. And this is something really cool that I came across. Actually, this year was from one of my mentors. I have top mentors as well. I think everybody needs a mentor in their life. And he was talking about how different, you know, when we commit to something, that there are 4 different levels of commitment. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but for me, it was sort of a little revelation because I started understanding myself better. So the first level, let's say you commit to something. What is it? Just think about something you want to commit to. What can it be? I can't hear you, so you know, but something anyway. You want to commit to something. You want to start a new program. You want to start better eating habits. You want to start training. You know, all the regular things. So the first level in a category he would call a toe dipper. So we just really dip our toes into it, just like with this webinar, dipping our toes into it and seeing, is this really for me? I don't know. You know, I'm going to listen to her, but we'll see what I get out of it. And maybe I don't want to change after all. So I'm just dipping my toes into it. Okay. And that's fine. The next level is a conditional commitment. It's like, okay, I commit on condition that the program, or I'll start my change of eating habits next Monday if next Monday is an even number, or you know, there's always a condition to it. So it's like, it's not a fully commitment, but it's like, okay, I commit if. And then you have the third level, the third category, and that's total commitment. It's like, oh yeah, I'm in, I'm doing this. And then actually the fourth category or level is unstoppable. Okay, so, and this is really interesting because I don't think that all of us are like in, you know, we're not all toe dippers all the time, or we're not all unstoppable, or we're not all, you know, committed. We are all of these 3 levels and categories depending on what it is that we're doing. So I just want you to think about this. In what circumstances in your life have you been a toe dipper? In what circumstances have you been committed? And in what circumstances have you been committed but with a condition? And have you also experienced this unstoppable feeling? I mean, I'm thinking of like, you know, like Elon Musk or somebody like that. They got to be unstoppable. I mean, they're definitely not toe dippers. Branson and all those people who are being able to like create so many things, they just seem unstoppable. So it's really interesting to start to think about that. Where are you? And when you start a new thing, you know, on what level will you be committed to it? So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. Well, we have a lot of internal resistance, right? I mean, that's part of having limiting beliefs as well. We can have thoughts of, oh, I'm not worthy this, I don't have the skills, or this one, who am I to? And I'd like you to write this down. Write down, who am I to? And fill in the blanks. Who am I to, well, sit here and talk to you and do a webinar on limiting beliefs? I have limiting beliefs, obviously. We all have. So who am I to? Who am I to think that I'm a writer? Who am I to, whatever, come up with? So write that down, and I'm sure that you'll be able to fill in that even more as we go along. The important thing here is to make a shift, and I do love this picture of the, I hope you can see it. Let's see if I move this a little bit up like that. Okay. Because everything we do and see is out of our own mindset. And if we have like this rhino here, if they have this little horn up there in front of you, that's all you're going to see. Whatever you're looking at, that's what you'll see. And we all have, we call it our colored glasses, because we see things out of our own subjective point of view. So what do we do then? Well, the solution is, of course, shifting the mindset. But here is something important. The clues are in your life and in your current result. Please write that down. The clues are in your life and in your current result. Write that down while I take care of my dog. I'm so sorry. This is live, and I just have to move her a bit. Hang on. Keep writing. And I'm back. What do I mean with the clues are in your life and in your current result? Well, whatever you have done previously in your life has brought you right here, exactly where you are at right now. All the choices, all the decisions that you've ever made has brought you exactly here right now. And if you're happy with all the results, then you've made great decisions. Sometimes we're not happy with all of the results in our life. And then we need to go back and say, okay, how can I change that? What was it that brought me right here? And what are the results I want? And how can I change that? Because if I keep doing the same thing over again, I'll just end up right here again. Okay. So, there was a movie called Sliding Doors, right? I think it was called Sliding Doors. Have you seen it? It was somebody missing a train or something. I think it was. Anyhow, he would make the train, and it was different. It was him. I don't know. A long time ago, I haven't seen it. But if you like missed the train, something would happen. And if you made it into the train, another part of your life would change your life anyway. So that's what I mean with everything that we have today is a result of all the decisions and everything that we have made so far. It's quite daunting to think about that, really, but it's also really, really positive, because we do have choices. We have choices. Well, who am I, and why do I do, well, who am I to sit here and talk, and why do I do what I do? So I started actually way back when, in 1989, started working in health. I started working for a nonprofit organization in New York, and since then I've been really into nonprofits. I've been spending 10 years working with nonprofit organizations on a regular basis. But what I really do is I help people to go from stress to strength, because that's that's what's important. And to help people, to coach people, to see what is it really, that keeps us stuck, and how can we get unstuck. So I've been working as a therapist for the past 30 years. I'm a speaker. um, I can let you know that I hate sitting and speaking right into a camera like this, because I like people. I like to see your reactions. I like to talk to you, and it's very hard to get that same energy looking right into a camera lens. So I'm really looking forward to when I can get out again and start talking to people for real. Um, but this is what I do, and also come out with a couple of books, 2010 and 2020. So yeah, this is what I do. I help people to go from stress to strength. And this is now really, this is where you should really start paying attention, because now we're getting into it. Be careful how you're talking to yourself, because you're listening. How many times have we heard that before? Okay. And it's very true. So, how do we identify our limiting beliefs? Okay. Anybody have a clue? uh, the most important thing is to become aware and to write it down. I would tell everybody to keep a journal. Keep a journal, just saying limiting beliefs, and every time or any time something pops up in your head, write it down. Write it down, or write it down in your phone if that's what you got with you all the time. But I really do believe in pen, paper. Something happens when you move your thought to your hand, and your hand writes it down. So by identifying these limiting beliefs, writing them down, making them visible for you, and I can, let's see here, is that one? Yeah. The second thing is to becoming aware of old patterns. And I'd just like to tell you a little story, if I may, because when I grew up with a mother who had a pattern of speaking in a very negative way. I work with neuro-linguistic programming as well, with many other things, and it's all about the language patterns, what you say to yourself, and shifting your mindset and all that. So I grew up, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this. I grew up with always not hearing like positive things, never hearing that, oh God, you're good at that, or this is great, and wow. It was always like, oh, well, that wasn't too bad. And it could be, it could be like the simplest thing. You would sit and you would eat food, and it's like, well, that didn't taste too bad. Or would wear something new. Well, that doesn't look too bad. But it was never, oh, that looks great on you, or that's really nice. So I grew up with a very negative language pattern. And I decided really early that, this does not sound right. And I decided to be the total opposite. So I became the total opposite instead. But it's really interesting to find out and just listen to yourself when you talk to yourself. So that's the first thing I want you to do. Write down your limiting beliefs every time you think, oh, I can't do that. I don't have enough skills, or I'm too old to change a job. I'm not smart enough. I can't do that. I'm scared. I'm all of those things. Just write them down. And then you start becoming aware of patterns, because this is another really interesting thing. We are really into doing the same thing like we did yesterday, thinking the same thoughts like we did yesterday. I mean, they say that, 95% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So it's like there's very seldom any like eureka moment. It's like, oh my God, I had an epiphany. So, and just becoming aware of that, just knowing that, well, what if I can break this pattern? If I have done this pattern for so long and it has brought me to this result, is this the result that I want? Or do I want to change it? Okay, so breaking, being aware of old patterns, and then finally breaking them. Finding out, this is another thing. I'm asking you questions now. Write them down and answer them in your own time. What drives you? What is it that when you wake up in the morning, you go like, yes, today I'm going to do so and so? What drives you? What really, is it like, do you have a drive maybe on weekends when you're off instead? Well, then find out what drives you then. So that's really important, to find out the motor in ourselves, what makes us excited. And then we need to find out what stops us from doing it more. Okay? So, and it could be anything. And as I said, keep a journal. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, please do. Identify your limiting beliefs, become aware of the old patterns, find out what drives you, what stops you, and write everything down in a journal. Because this is the starting point. We cannot change unless we are aware, or unless we come into acceptance of how things are right now. And yeah, stay away from negative people. They have a problem for every solution. So the next big questions that I want to ask you is, what results do you want? And in what area? Is it in your private life? Is it in your work life? What is it? What are the results that you want? If we never ever get clear on the results, everybody has heard about, we have the goal, setting goals and all that stuff. But it's true, because if we're not clear what we want, we just keep, moving around, and all of a sudden we bump into something, and it's like, oh yeah, might be good, but not really what I wanted. So being extremely clear about what we want and the results that we want. So get as clear as you can. Also write this down. And it doesn't matter what, it could be anything. I mean, this is what life coaching is all about. I work with people from, well, for the past 15 years, people with cancer and caregivers. And that's a whole thing in itself. But it really doesn't limit the life coaching and what I do to other people who are having a problem with setting other goals or trying to achieve other things. So get really, really clear on what you want. And this is the question I always get asked. Does it take a long time, to change this? And I always say, well, now I'm going to start saying, are you a toe dipper? Or are you committed? Or are you only committed on a condition? Or are you totally unstoppable? Because if you're unstoppable and committed, change doesn't really need to take time at all. Change can be pretty instant. And then it's just the results that takes a little while to see it, but the change can be instant. Hope you're with me there. We can talk about that later in the Q&A afterwards, what the difference is. So along the way, we are meeting obviously a lot of internal and external resistance also. The internal resistance, well, those are the limiting beliefs. This is why we're here. This is why we're talking about it. So, and the external resistance is what other people think. So if we are first of all have to battle our own internal resistance, and trying to battle with that, and yes, I can do this, and yeah, this is right for me, and okay. And then all of a sudden you meet external resistance as well. How do you battle that? How do you deal with that? So we need coping strategies for everything, both our own and for the outside. And what happens physically in your body? What happens when you feel that you have an internal resistance? Can you write that down for me? What happens in your body when you feel that you have a resistance in your body, and we have this incongruency, as we call it. We're not on the same page with ourselves. It's like we have one voice saying this and another voice saying something else. So what happens physically in your body when you meet internal resistance? And what happens when you meet external resistance? Is it the same response? Do you respond the same to internal and external resistance? I'd like you to think about that, and I'd like you to write it down. How do I respond to internal resistance and external resistance? Because again, these are clues. The clues in your life, right? And I think you all know these responses that we can have to when it becomes too stressful, because that's what happens if we have one voice saying one thing and another one another thing. We get into stress, and we have these. We can go into fight, we can go into flight, we can go into freeze. But I'd also like to point out we can also have this faint feeling as well. It's like all the energy, it just drains you. It's just like a drain. It's not like freezing, but it just drains you, totally drains you. So those are the type of things. And I do work with them. I work with them physically. I help people physically to get out of these different states of fight, flight, freeze, or faint. Okay, I told you, meet your own self-saboteurs. Do you have any? Right off the bat, do you know that you have any? I'm sure you do. But here are some more. There are many, many more than this. But I think we have all met perfectionist, a person who is so good at what they're doing, but they're also perfectionists, and they have a hard time to, let's say if you're writing a book, for example, and that book never gets written because it's never good enough, and it can take years and years and years before it comes out. In this way, it's a self-sabotaging pattern, because it stops you from releasing it. You just keep working on it. It's never good enough for you. We also have the paralysis analysis. People who are, or self-sabotaging patterns, because I think all of us has a little bit of some, and some of us has none of it. But the paralysis analysis is like you you go into such deep analyzation that in the end you don't know what to choose, because there's just so many things to choose from, and you can't really pick any, and it just becomes too much. It's overwhelming. That's what it is. Scattered, it's also a pattern, very common for a lot of entrepreneurs, because they love so many things and like to do so many things, so they get scattered instead. They start this, and then they start that, and then the third thing, and so on. I know nothing about that. And then you have the maximizer, trying to like push as much information into like a webinar. I know nothing about that either. Uh, as you say, we all have something in this. So, some can be very black and white, it's all or nothing, or you comparison yourself with others all the time. Who am I to do this when all these people do it so much better and all that? But there's a voice for everything. There really is a voice for everything. There's a coach for everybody. There's a there's something for everybody there. So this is just some of the self-sabotaging patterns, and you can make up your own. And if you want to keep them, keep them. But if you want to sort of see if you can shift them a bit, you can always talk to me. This is where we're going to get into, I think we're going to do another 10 minutes here. Levels to emotional freedom. Wow, doesn't that sound amazing? And what is this really? I don't know if you've seen this before. It's called logical levels, and it's right out of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is, as I told you before, a language pattern, and how to change and shift your mindset really. And DILS is well, it was started by two men, Bandler and Grinder, and this is also a man, Dilts, who has sort of worked, and it's always keeps developing. So I use this when I work with people just to see on what level they're stuck. And I'd just like to tell you, to give you an example for this to make sense. When I started working with NLP, it was back in 2008 or something, 2009 or something. I started with the easy cases. I started with people wanting to quit smoking. Okay, so, and I used this level. I used to go in to see, is it something in the environment that we need to change? Is it like a behavior? Is it their capability to put down a cigarette, for example? Is it values, beliefs, identity, or so I would go in and see what level it is. And what really struck me many times was that why people, if we're not talking about smoking, why people fail to quit is because they work on the wrong level. Many that I spoke to, they would identify themselves like this. They would say, I am a smoker. Okay. That to me tells me that it is part of their identity. So if I were to go in and try to see how can we change your environment only, it's not really going to help. Or their behavior, or their values and beliefs, because it was much higher. It was part of the identity. So who are you if you're not a smoker? So that's where you have to start. And then you can work your way down. You can change your values, beliefs around it. You can change the behaviors, and also make sure that the environment is sort of friendly to you, so that you don't easily go into um, I know some places they have these smoking squares where everybody meets up and talks, and so you need to stay away from those things. And this is also a really, really good blueprint to work with any type of problem. I've worked with so many things out of this level, this emotional freedom level. So you can take a screenshot of this too, but this belongs to DILTS, and this is why one of the reasons I can't send out the PowerPoints, but I just wanted to show it to you. So how do we work with this when it comes to emotional freedom then? I'm thinking about so many people now with this lockdown that's been in many, many parts of the world due to COVID-19. I'm thinking about in UK and France and Spain and a lot of other places where they've really had a hard time. So how can you not feel isolated? How can you not feel locked down? And I'm just thinking about Nelson Mandela, that he was locked up for, I think, 27 years or something, and they locked up his body, but they never locked up his mind. And that is the difference. That is really the difference. So we can free our minds. We can free our minds on all these levels, and not having the feeling of being locked up, not having the feeling of being isolated. So all of these things, I'm not going to go deeper into it now, but because I'd like to do a workshop on this. But I just want you to see how you can work on this. So what do you need to succeed if you want to do it, if you want to do a change? It's good to have a proven system that works. NLP has worked for years and years and with great result, and I have lots of great results with it too. And you need to have a coach and a community, a support, really more people around you. Trying to do change on your own is always very hard. You also need somebody to hold you accountable, and here's the commitment again. Being a toe dipper, you know the drill now. And also what you need to succeed is, what I've noticed, because this last year it's been everything online, it's really good. I think it's really good to be able to meet each other online and sit and talk like in groups and so on, and do this on a weekly basis. And also obviously having someone to hold you accountable is important. So why do we fail to succeed when it comes to these things? Well, first of all, trying to do it on your own is really hard. I've never tried to do it on my own. I've always had people around me and who would challenge me and ask me questions, and you know, why do you do like that? Not addressing the elephant in the room, not having the right resources to do it, and not having a system that works, not having the support, and not being accountable. So those are some of the things that why we usually fail when we start off something new. I have, as I said, for 30 years I've been working with stress management, and it was not until it was 3 years ago or something like that, where I met my now new coaches, that they said, so what's your system? And I said, system? I don't know. I don't have a system. I help people. I do this and I do that. Yeah, but I mean, you have to have a system. And I'm like, yeah, I do have a system. And what I take people through actually is, I take people into awareness. That's the first. We go in, just like today. This is like an awareness program for you right now, a webinar, the awareness, all the questions I've been asking you. This is what I ask all of my clients. And also coming into acceptance. You know, this is what it looks like right now. Because if we start fighting things, it doesn't really work. You know, we're fighting against ourselves. So we have to accept that things are like they are, but we need to come into awareness. And then the next step that we're taking is to find the right coping strategies that works for you. Some people, it's working with the logical levels. Some people, I work with other systems. But we need to find the right coping strategies, whatever it is. And the third step is to, well, I would say to heal as well. It's heal and recharge. But heal is an important thing, because if we have been going around with a belief that we are not good enough, we need to heal that thought. We need to heal that part of our body, so that we actually can feel good about ourselves again. And we need to recharge, obviously. The transformation, well, that's where I come in too. And I mean, I'm in all of these systems, but it's really hard to do things on your own. If it was easy, because I'm sure that you all have a lot of books, a lot of self-help books that you've read, and they are in the rack, and they're there, and they're collecting dust, and you bring them out again, and you look at them and you read through them. Oh yeah, you get inspired, and it's like, oh, the inspiration lasts for a day or two, or maybe a week, and you put it away, and then heavy day starts, and so on. So we really need transformation, not just information. We need somebody to hold the hand and help you through, and then just get into a new norm and get sustainable habits, actually, which is important. So what is your challenge? What do you want to dive deeper into? That is my question to you, and this is what I will ask you after I stop the recording. I want to know what your challenge is and what you want to learn more about, so that I can serve you and not just sit here and come up with my own ideas about what you need, because that doesn't work at all. I was thinking about doing a workshop here, actually, and did I write down the dates? I did write down the dates. So about the same time, but on May 16th, just like sitting down for an hour, but really in a group on Zoom, going over what is it that holds you back, just really doing the journaling, and do the journal from now until then. Going into the six levels in detail, so that you really know where should you start looking at and solving your problem. And then going forward on May 17th, I thought, okay, so what level, really going into the levels, on what levels do you experience the blockage? Like really going in and try to solve that. And then just, it's really all about the transformation on the 18th. Sounds easy, right? But these are 3 really simple but digging deep workshops that I'd like to do. And, we'll see how many who will join me there, because there is a choice. We all have choices. Action is very important. Do you know how many times we think about things and then we never do them?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never. No, we think about a lot of things. And if we don't catch it in that moment, it is very, very, very hard. We need to take the action. There's a 3-second rule. There's a 3-second rule. Have you heard about it? If you think about something, oh, I need to do that, you need to take the first action within 3 seconds. Because after those 3 seconds, I bet you there's another thing coming up. Yeah, but I don't really want to do that right now. I can do it later. Or was it really such a good idea? So if you really want to get things done, the 3-second rule, take action immediately. Would it be worth it? That's a good question to ask, right? What happens when you say yes to yourself? We say yes to a lot of people otherwise, but very seldom yes to ourselves. But if you do say yes to yourself, I was thinking about doing these workshops, not for free, because this is my job as well. I have to charge for something, uh, but it's really cheap for what you get, and it's $49 or 497 crowns, and to find out. And are you worth it? Yes, obviously you are, because you're here. So the reason why I'm doing is because I've always had this passion about why we do what we do, um, from when I was very young. And I really encourage people to face the fears and to live their purpose. And this is the biggest reason, I would say, what I went through 3 years ago, with my husband's illness and also his death, because he came to such a big realization about this. I mean, I'd been working with this for years. And then he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, it's true. And he put all his thoughts and feelings into this book that I can highly recommend if you haven't read it yet, called Reflections. But this is also a big reason for me to really keep doing what I do, changing our lives to live the best life that we can have, and not letting those limiting beliefs and fears, rule us, but instead just taking the action and doing it. It is so deliberating. It's such a feeling. The book just got a Book Excellent Award finalist prize, so I'm really happy about that. This was something I wanted to throw in now quickly because I found this on internet. You find so many things on internet, and I just copied it and put it right here. And it talks about 6 types of courage, and I really do agree with almost all of them. I would just change the first one a little bit. So we have physical courage. Here it says to keep going with resiliency, balance, and awareness, but also physical courage to physically do something, physically take action, I would add. Then we have the social courage. I can hardly speak. And it's just to be yourself, just to really stand up and be yourself. The moral courage is to do the right thing, even when it doesn't, if it's not so comfortable, you still do it. The emotional courage also, feeling all your emotions, whether they are positive or negative, and without guilt or without attachment. This is what I teach when I teach mindfulness. Feeling all the feeling, having the courage to sit there, even if you're sad, if you're grieving, if you're depressed, whatever, having the courage to sit down with your feelings and let them just go through you. There are techniques for that. And I have used all of them. It really, really works. So that's emotional courage. Intellectual courage to to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, to have an open mind, flexible mind, and then the spiritual courage also to live with purpose, with a higher purpose, because when we not only do things for us, but we do things for others, it really makes us feel good, and it makes us feel like we have a deeper connection, and this deeper connection is very important. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there too. I like these. We don't see things for what they are. We see them as we are. Remember the rhino in the beginning with the horn there? We see only what's in front of us, and then the rest is colored by our glasses. And also change your thoughts, and your whole world will change, because it does. I'm actually working on it now, but this is not going to be until a group coaching program doesn't start until September, I think. For now, and what I've been doing the last year is I do coaching one-on-one with people, and where I really go deep into, because I really love to sit down and work one-on-one. It's just to see the change is unbelievable. But I know a lot of people cannot afford that because it is expensive. There's a lot of energy I put into it. It has to be the right fit. We have to be the right fit for each other. You have to be totally committed because I'm totally committed. And so, we work very intense and very close so that you get what you want, your result. But in a coaching program, I can lower the price and I can have more people, but that's not going to start until the autumn. But I do open up for complimentary sessions though, if you want to know. So if you want to sign up for the workshop, you can do that. Just let me know. Send me a mail. These are the dates, 16th, 17th, 18th. I would love to work with you. And this is a group thing. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's only 497 crowns or $49. So, and this is really what we've been going through this past 55 minutes, about identifying limiting beliefs, internal resistance, what drives you, what stops you, awareness of self-sabotaging patterns, and 6 levels to emotional freedom. And I hope that you've written down the questions that I've asked you. And I would love to go into a Q&A session where we can talk and you can ask me all sorts of questions. And I think that's coming up next. Yes, there we are. So I'm going to stop the recording. Let's see here. I'm going to stop this first of all, stop the sharing, and we can really see each other again. And I will quit the recording. There it is. Do I want to